My dad, feeling sorry for my 10-year secret crush, simply drugged his good friend, who was much older, and sent him to my bed. After waking up, he coldly agreed to marry me. Not long after getting married, Ethan frequently went abroad on business trips, and each trip lasted 3 years. I gave birth to my daughter Ava and waited at home for him to return. 3 years later, when I heard he was returning to the country, I gave up an important social engagement and took my daughter to the airport to meet him. The daughter begged him for a hug, and he glanced at me lightly. Sorry, I have a cleanliness obsession. Since then, my daughter and I wash our hands more than 3 times each time. The floors in the house are spotless, but he still hasn't come back. He hasn't even held our daughter. Until I saw a video where someone asked him, "Ethan, what do you think is the happiest thing?" He replied casually, "Last week abroad, I put Emma to sleep and then pulled Julie into the bathroom." In the midst of the uproar, my hands and feet were icy cold. Julie is his ex-girlfriend with whom he has an unresolved connection, and Emma is the daughter of his ex-girlfriend. I heard that they have been living together for the past 3 years abroad, and it turns out to be true. I was completely heartbroken, left the divorce agreement, and took my daughter to cancel our identities before going abroad. The nanny picked up her daughter from kindergarten, and Ava's eyes were swollen from crying. "Mom, does Ava not have a dad?" she sobbed, feeling terribly wronged. Dad promised to go to the kindergarten parent meeting for me, but when he arrived, he said he was Emma's dad. "Mom, they all say Ava is a child without a father, boo-hoo." A sharp pain shot through my chest as I held my daughter tightly, my eyes red. I wanted to say something to comfort her, but Ethan's cold demeanor echoed in my mind, and the words got stuck in my throat. I regret my initial decision. I thought that after waiting for 3 years, he would finally come to his senses and be willing to return home to reunite with us, mother and daughter. Little did he expect that it was just because Julie mentioned wanting to go back to her country. Without hesitation, he bought a plane ticket, arranged everything, and even transferred his ex-girlfriend's daughter to the best kindergarten. On the day she went to the airport to meet him, Ava wore her prettiest dress and nervously asked me, "Mom, will Dad like Ava?" I nodded. Ava is Dad's only daughter, of course she would. But when we arrived at the airport with excitement, we saw Ethan holding Julie's hand, with a 3-year-old girl in his arms. Ava and I stood frozen in place. Ethan glanced at me lightly and said, "Sorry, I need to take care of Julie and Emma first. You two should head home." He didn't even glance at Ava, yet he looked at Emma with a face full of tenderness. Thinking of this, I despairingly closed my eyes. "I'm sorry, Ava, it's all my fault. Next time, I'll go to the parent-teacher meeting for you." I helped Ava wash her face and finally got her to sleep. But her little brows were tightly furrowed. "Daddy, hug me. My heart feels like it's been pricked by a needle." If it weren't for that incident 3 years ago, Ava might not have to suffer like this. 3 years ago, my dad, feeling sorry for my 10-year crush, simply drugged Ethan and sent him to my bed. I was shocked beyond belief. "Dad, are you trying to kill me?" My dad sighed. He had noticed long ago that you liked Ethan, and that kid has feelings for you too, but he just won't say it. That day, after getting drunk, I still heard him calling your name. I felt it was all so tedious for you both. Why not just turn raw rice into cooked rice directly? I resisted in every way, but unexpectedly, the next moment, my whole body became hot. My dad chuckled, "I've added something to your drink too, so cherish this night." Then the door was locked from the inside. That night, Ethan woke up and coldly said, "Erica, I will take responsibility for you and marry you." I thought a happy life was about to begin. Yet, at a gathering one day, I unexpectedly ran into him talking with friends. "Ethan, don't take your blessings for granted. Erica has a great figure, is wealthy, and most importantly, she loves you. Just enjoy your life together." Ethan took a drag from his cigarette and sneered. At first, I had a good impression of her, but I never expected her to be such a casual person. Just thinking about the way she drugged me that day and forced herself on me makes me feel disgusted. I still haven't figured out how to explain it to him properly, and half a month later, he got a visa and went abroad. Yet that night gave me a child. I gave birth to my daughter Ava and waited day and night for him to return. What I got instead was the tangled relationship between him and Julie and her daughter. In the empty villa, silence enveloped me. I took out my phone, just about to call Ethan to ask when he would be back. Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and Ethan walked in coldly. He glanced at the sleeping Ava and casually said, "Emma is coming over to play tomorrow, you and Ava should go out." Meeting my confused gaze, he smiled slightly and explained, "Emma is quite possessive, she can't stand other little girls calling me dad." I had just been holding in a belly full of anger, and now it finally exploded. I laughed in rage. "Ethan, do you even know who your real daughter is? Do you have any idea what happened to Ava at kindergarten today?" Ethan frowned slightly and interrupted me. "Erica, I don't need you to remind me of this. Today at the kindergarten, I'm very sorry, Emma also has to attend a parent-teacher meeting. Julie and her dad are getting a divorce, and she's overwhelmed taking care of the child by herself. Moreover, before I met you, I had already sworn to Julie that I would never let her suffer. I have married you as you wished, but you cannot stop me from caring for her and her daughter. This is what I owe them." Ethan finished speaking, threw down his coat, and went to the bathroom. The sound of rushing water drowned out my desperate, helpless sobs. If I had known that life would turn out like this after marrying him, I would rather die than choose to submit that night. I gave a wry smile at the divorce agreement I had just typed up on the computer. If it weren't for Ava, given my personality, I probably would have filed for divorce a long time ago. But when I think of how Ava feels wronged, I want to fight for it a little longer. I don't want her to lose her father from such a young age. Ava woke up early in the morning and learned that her dad had come back. She jumped up excitedly on her little bed, wanting me to take the drawing she had just made to show her dad. Children have short memories. Ava has already forgiven Ethan for what happened at kindergarten yesterday. Ava happily ran downstairs. But she saw Julie and Emma there, and Ethan was gently helping Emma peel an orange. "Dad, who are they?" Seeing Ava still at home, Ethan frowned and asked, "Why are you still at home? Where's your mom?" Ava was startled, yet she carefully held up the family portrait she had drawn over the week. This was the family portrait Ava had created, thinking she would give it to her dad when he returned home. The painting was just about to be handed over when it was rudely snatched away by a small hand. "What a worthless painting." Emma stomped her foot and tore it in half. She stood there arrogantly with her hands on her hips and shoved my daughter hard. "This is my dad. Ava, the classmates all say you are a wild child, who allowed you to call me dad." Seeing Ava lying on the ground crying loudly, I immediately panicked, helped Ava up, and coldly glared at Emma, shouting, "Apologize." Ethan frowned and said unhappily, "Erica, why are you being so harsh with the kids? Last night I told you in advance that Emma can't stand others calling me dad. She was just feeling wronged and angry, not intentionally pushing Ava." I remained steadfast, still holding on. "Was she doing it on purpose? Didn't you see it just now? Ethan, she just called Ava a bastard to her face." "You tell her, is Ava really a bastard?" Ethan hesitated for a moment, but still gently coaxed Emma, showing no intention of apologizing. Julie rolled her eyes and smiled gracefully as she apologized. "Erica, I'm really sorry. Emma grew up abroad and has a straightforward personality. She says what she thinks, so please don't take it to heart." She said this, and the little girl in her arms looked even more pleased. I wasn't wrong. The classmates all said it. Ava is just a wild child. She stole my dad. I clenched my fists and coldly stared at Ethan. He had said before that he was a perfectionist, and both Ava and I had tolerated it, constantly accommodating him. He is willing to use overtime as an excuse to get entangled with other women outside, and I turn a blind eye to it. But now, I cannot tolerate others calling my daughter a bastard. "Ethan, I will ask you one more time, is Ava?" Ethan's face flashed with displeasure, but he sneered and said, "Don't you have any idea how she became my daughter? Alright, today is the day Emma comes over to play, so let's not make everyone unhappy." Julie and her mother were gloating nearby. Ethan, feeling heartbroken, picked up Emma and said, "How about Daddy goes to buy you some toys? And a pretty dress?" "Okay." Ethan's face was full of indulgence. Looking at his back, I felt a chill in my heart and finally said the words I had weighed countless times but could never bring myself to say. Ethan, let's get a divorce. Ethan paused, turning back coldly. Erica, do you find this amusing? If you think this can threaten me, then so be it. After saying that, he left without looking back. A hint of a smile flashed in Julie's eyes, but she quickly suppressed it and returned to apologize to me. I'm really sorry, Ethan and I are innocent. This person is very loyal and caring. He feels sorry for me having divorced early, with no father for my child, so he has been a bit more concerned. Please don't take it to heart, and don't let this cause any unpleasantness. Julie added my contact information before leaving, saying she wanted to compensate for the painting of Ava. Julie, come here. Ethan is holding Emma and calling her softly from not far outside. Here they come. Julie chased after them with a beaming smile, and they hadn't gone far when their conversation clearly reached my ears. Ethan, you really shouldn't have agreed to that just because Erica said the divorce was just a spur-of-the-moment thing. Ethan scoffed, she went to great lengths to secure this marriage, how could she possibly bear to divorce? Just now, she was so fierce with our Emma, but it was merely a small punishment for her. It won't be long before she comes begging me to come back. I couldn't help but sneer. Ethan, people can change. In the past, Erica died recklessly for love. Now, for my daughter, I will choose to completely leave you. Ava hid in her room, crying uncontrollably. Mom and her classmates all said that Dad was Emma's dad, but Ava didn't fight her for Dad. Later, she fell asleep holding Ethan's photo, while I couldn't sleep at all. I opened my phone and saw that Julie had updated her moments. Emma finally has the missing paternal love that belongs to us, and no one can take it away. Right below the text is a picture of the three of them closely embracing and smiling at the camera, looking just like a family of three. I casually tapped a like, and suddenly a message popped up on my phone. A video sent by Julie popped up, and I opened it to see Ethan's handsome face, back when he had just returned to the country. A friend asked him, Ethan, what do you think is the happiest thing? He replied casually, last week abroad, I put Emma to sleep and then pulled Julie into the bathroom. With the tenderness in his eyes and the raucous cheers around us, my hands and feet felt icy cold. Julie shared a message in her social circle, ever since we had a child, we can no longer enjoy our world as a couple, we can only wait until Emma falls asleep and then quietly sneak around doing this and that. I was lost in thought when Julie sent another message. I'm really sorry, I just clicked the wrong button and accidentally sent it to you. By the time I realized, it was already too late to take it back. But to be honest, you should know Ethan's feelings by now, right? At first, it was because you used despicable means that you forced me into marriage and became Ethan's wife. During these 3 years abroad, he has always been with me and Emma. Although the child is not his biological son, Ethan is more considerate and caring than a biological father. Even after our breakup, he still can't bear to part with me. It won't be long before we find our way back to each other again. Erica, I know your family is wealthy and you don't need this man, I advise you to spare yourself the trouble and withdraw voluntarily. After speaking, she sent another picture. Emma is in the middle, smiling brightly, while she and Ethan kiss the girl's cheek at the same time, looking just like a happy family. I smiled and replied to her, sure. Then I got through to my dad's phone. Dad, I've made up my mind, I'm taking Ava abroad to settle down, and we'll be leaving in a few days. My dad's surprised voice came through. Really? But I heard Ethan has returned to the country. It must have been difficult for your family to reunite, does he agree? I gave a desolate, bitter smile and said, he cannot obtain it. I no longer insist on waiting for Ethan to come back before I go to sleep like I used to. When Ethan returned, it was already 2 in the morning. As soon as he stepped inside, he saw the pitch-black room and frowned. Usually, I would leave the light on for him every time, but this time it became an exception. Not just this time, but after that, I no longer troubled him. For 3 whole days, I didn't say a word to Ethan. Ethan seemed to sense something was off, so when he returned, he brought a gift box. Erica, this is for you. A trace of apology crossed his face. A few days ago, it was Emma's thoughtlessness, and I apologized to you and Ava on her behalf. As he spoke, he opened the gift box, and inside lay a vintage necklace, quietly resting. He took it out and was just about to help me put it on. I quietly avoid it, no need to trouble myself. That necklace, I had seen it in Julie's social circle. She had complained about it being outdated and old-fashioned, even joking that she wouldn't want to throw it away. I expressionlessly walked past Ethan, holding Ava as I changed clothes, then drove out. He glanced over, paused for a moment, and then lingered on me for a long time. "You are a bit different today. Where are you going?" "I'll drive you." Ethan appeared particularly attentive. The rearview mirror reflected my crisp and neat casual suit, while in front of him before, I had only worn dresses that looked gentle and demure. But in the 3 years he has been gone, I have started a company, attended social gatherings, and even fixed the plumbing myself. I am not dependent on him. As for driving, no need, I should be more skilled at it than you. Moreover, today I went out to cancel Ava's domestic identity. 3 hours later, after we had finished canceling our identification documents and came out, we saw Ethan's car parked at the entrance, his brow furrowed as he stared at me. "Erica, what are you doing here with your daughter?" He followed me all the way, and when he saw me carrying Ava inside, I didn't come out for 3 hours. For some reason, my heart felt like it was being twisted with unease. I smiled and said, "It's nothing, my ID has expired, I'm here to get a new one." "Aren't you busy today?" "I heard that Julie has been looking for a job recently, so she might need you." Ethan stared at me intently, his expression inscrutable. After a long while, he sneered, "Erica, you're quite something. It's the first time I've seen someone push their husband away like this." "Since you said so, I'll do as you wish." The car door slammed shut, and Ethan's car vanished in an instant. "I really don't understand, I helped them, so why is he angry instead?" I only learned from Ethan's assistant. "Madam, Mr. Ethan specifically took a day off to spend with you and the child, how did you manage to drive him away?" "Now it's good, he got himself completely drunk and ran off to see Julie and her mother. The assistant has always thought that Ethan and I are a good match, wholeheartedly trying to bring us together. But now, I chuckle self-deprecatingly, thank you, but let it be. After all, there are still 3 days left. Ava and I will be leaving here soon." But I never expected that on the day I helped Ava transfer schools, she was pushed into the water by Emma, triggering a medical emergency. I rushed to save Ava like a madman, only to be told by the hospital that Ethan had redirected all the medical resources in the city to treat Emma's allergy. Seeing Ava's little face pale, I desperately dialed Ethan's number, begging him to save Ava. On the other end of the phone, Julie's cries could be heard. He sounded frantic, yet he let out a cold laugh. "Erica, what are you pretending to be so pitiful about this time? Ava is fine, how could anything possibly be wrong? That day I accompanied you, but you pushed me away. Now Emma has a severe allergy, and because you're jealous, what tricks are you trying to play?" A metallic taste filled my throat, and just as I was about to explain, the phone emitted a busy signal. I was engulfed by a wave of despair. I thought Ava would cry, but instead, she was calmly looking at me while breathing oxygen. "Mom, Dad really doesn't want Ava this time, right?" She smiled understandingly and weakly helped me wipe away my tears. "Don't cry, Mom, that Ava doesn't want Dad anymore either." In the end, I called my dad, and using his connections, I quickly arranged for a top-tier doctor to come from the neighboring city. During these days in the hospital, Ethan has not shown up at all. The television station was still broadcasting Ethan's heroic deeds of mobilizing the city's medical resources to save lives. I coldly stared at the face on the screen filled with worry. "Ethan, since you love them so much, I will fulfill you and our daughter." The day Ava was discharged from the hospital, I cancelled my domestic identity, deleted Ethan's contact information, broke my SIM card, and left this city for good with Ava. Ethan finally breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing that Emma was no longer in danger from her allergies. Julie has been worried sick these past few days, and she has finally fallen asleep now. For some reason, Ethan always felt a sense of emptiness in his heart. He subconsciously took out his phone and turned it on. I thought that after forcibly shutting down for the past couple of days, Erica would flood his phone with calls, but when he turned it back on, he was stunned. Not a single missed call. He was somewhat surprised to open our chat dialogue and find it still lingering from 2 days ago. Erica pleaded with him, "Please answer the phone, Ava is in the hospital, she needs urgent help." Ethan cast a disdainful glance. He thought it was just another ploy of jealousy. But suddenly, a strong sense of unease surged within him. Just as I was about to dial my phone, I suddenly heard two nurses passing by in the hospital corridor, talking about something. "Have you heard? The most famous Dr. Zhang from the neighboring city came to save Ava, and it was all thanks to Erica's connections." "Yes, otherwise this little girl could have a sudden emergency, and she might even lose her life." Hearing the familiar words, Ethan suddenly stood up, frowning as he stopped them and asked, "Why did I hear you say, Ava, Erica?" The two nurses exchanged glances. "Yes, Mr. Ethan, you probably don't know that a couple of days ago, when you mobilized all the medical resources in the city, there was a little girl named Ava at our branch who suddenly fell seriously ill and needed urgent rescue. Originally, everyone thought that without a doctor, the little girl wouldn't make it, but fortunately, Erica managed to bring a doctor over from the neighboring city, and in the end, it was a close call but no harm done." Ethan's face turned pale inch by inch. "Are you sure that girl is named Ava?" "Yes." The nurse nodded firmly, noticing that his expression was off. "What's wrong, Mr. Ethan? Do you know that little girl?" In recent days, Ethan's mobilization of all the city's medical resources has made his reputation as a domineering CEO widely known. Even the nurses at the hospital were envious, but unfortunately, he married young and has a wife like Julie and a lucky daughter like Emma. Ethan collapsed to the ground. "Ava is my daughter." The nurse laughed in disbelief. "Mr. Ethan, you must be joking. Who doesn't know that your daughter is Emma? The reporters from the TV station have said it, you love your wife so much and your precious daughter. Everyone jokes that they hope to be reborn as your second child in their next life." Ethan suddenly looked up. "Who said that?" The nurse pointed to Julie, who was sleeping in the ward. "Of course, Miss Julie. She said that you and your wife are very affectionate, and you are quite a daughter slave. Yes, that Ava almost lost her life, and her father didn't even show up. How could she possibly be your daughter?" With every word exchanged, Ethan's expression darkened. He almost immediately rushed into the hospital room and slammed the door shut. Julie was awakened, her eyes hazy as she looked at him. "Ethan, what's wrong?" Ethan's face turned pale. "You told the reporters and the medical staff that you are my wife? Emma is my daughter? Also, I didn't have time to investigate Emma's allergy. How did those reporters suddenly come to the hospital to cover this matter?" A flicker of guilt passed through Julie's eyes, and she smiled awkwardly. "It might have been an accident. After all, they all heard Emma calling for your dad when she was in pain from her allergy, so it was only natural for them to understand that I am your wife." Julie felt wronged as she spoke, yet pretended to be understanding. "Ethan, do you care a lot about this? If you do, I can step in to clarify." Julie deliberately reddened her eyes, pretending to dawdle as she went out to tell others. Sure enough, a few seconds later, Ethan stopped her. "No need." Julie smiled triumphantly. She had long since figured out Ethan's thoughts. Ethan has always been a person who dislikes being high-profile. If he were to deliberately clarify or explain, it would only make him more embarrassed. So before Emma's allergy, she arranged for reporters to stake out for an interview right away. She also knew that as long as Ethan was willing to treat Emma's allergies and mobilize all the medical resources in the city, public opinion would stir up. By then, she had become the well-known Mrs. Ethan. Even if Erica has a marriage certificate, who would believe it? At that time, just hire some online trolls to say that Erica is the mistress. Those two, mother and daughter, would have to leave. Julie repeatedly scrolled through the trending news on her phone, each article detailing how Ethan, the domineering CEO, was doing everything in his power to save his daughter. She felt that this risky move was the right one. Julie feigned concern and asked, "Ethan, what's wrong with you? You seem distracted. If you tell me, can I help share your burden?" Ethan shook his head and sighed helplessly. He had just heard the nurse say that Ava was also hospitalized and had a sudden emergency. "But I couldn't get through to Erica no matter how many times I called." That afternoon, Ethan could no longer sit still. "I need to go back and check on Erica and Ava. If it really was a sudden emergency for Ava, she must be terrified. But as soon as he finished speaking, a small arm wrapped around his thigh. "Woo-woo, Daddy, don't leave Emma behind." Emma had just been awakened, her face lit up with a smile as she stared at Ethan. Hearing that he was leaving, Julie immediately shot him a glance. She understood in an instant, bursting into tears and clinging to his leg, refusing to let go no matter what. Julie pretended to be understanding. "Emma, be good. Daddy has things to do, can you let go of Daddy, okay?" Emma shook her head frantically. "No, Emma must have Daddy with her. Otherwise, Emma refuses to take her medicine." Ethan frowned, deeply troubled. Seeing this, his assistant comforted him. "Mr. Ethan, don't worry too much. Your wife loves you so much that even after you went abroad for 3 years, she willingly gave birth to and raised your daughter alone, waiting day and night for your return. How many people can show such resilience and determination? Isn't it just that you didn't answer her call? She might just be angry for a few days, but once she knows the truth, she will forgive you." Ethan found it very reasonable, and his furrowed brow immediately relaxed as he nodded with a smile. Indeed, Erica cared so much for her daughter that she must have already taken Ava home to wait for me. At first, she used every means to marry me, and the entire study was filled with her secret love diaries about me. Where else could she go when she wasn't home? I must have been so busy these days that my head was spinning, lost in wild thoughts. Thinking of this, Ethan sat down to rest with peace of mind and said to himself, "Once Emma is discharged from the hospital, I will go back and spend some quality time with them." In the blink of an eye, a week had passed. After the plane landed, Ava and I headed straight to my dad's place. He had spent enough years in the country and suddenly wanted to go to the other side of the Pacific to see the sea. He fell in love with the leisurely life there and decided to settle down. He told me, "Daughter, your dad is your backup at any time. No matter what happens, I will always have your back." My dad saw Ava and me, and he was so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth for a long time. "Grandpa. Ava, dear, do you miss Grandpa?" Of course I thought about it. Mom said that from now on we would be mooching food and drinks at Grandpa's house. The grandfather and grandson laughed heartily. That night, after putting Ava to sleep, my dad, with a heavy heart, asked me, "Erica, it wasn't convenient to talk on the phone, but now you can tell me, what exactly is going on between you and Ethan?" I explained the ins and outs of the matter. In the end, I smiled bitterly and said, "Dad, we were stubborn back then and made a mistake. Ethan doesn't like me at all, I can't force it. I've tried, I put in the effort, but since his heart isn't with me, I'll just go with the flow. Anyway, my work ability is strong. Just give me any company here to manage, and I can earn $1 million in a year for you, so I won't have to worry about raising Ava." My dad has been sighing for a long time. It shouldn't be like this. Clearly, back then when I tried, that kid Ethan really liked you, how could it have turned out like this? Looking at Ava's sleeping face, I smiled. Perhaps he once had a sincere heart, otherwise, with his personality, even if I threatened him with a knife to get married, he wouldn't have gone to get the marriage certificate with me. I never doubt sincerity. But sincerity can change in an instant. The next day, my dad completed the enrollment procedures for Ava and found her the best kindergarten in the area. My dad was already overwhelmed by the company's stock acquisition. Now that I'm here, he has a strong ally and can directly retire to go fishing. 2 weeks later. While handling work, I suddenly received an email from Assistant Chin. "Madam, I don't know if you can see this email. I've tried various ways to contact you, but all have failed. I suspect you have cancelled your identity and are probably no longer in the country. You have no idea, Mr. Ethan has been on the verge of madness during this time." I followed along line by line. Assistant Chin told me a lot about what was happening in the country. Ethan accompanied Emma to handle her discharge, and only then did he finally rush home, but he was completely stunned. The home, once filled with the breath of life, suddenly became clean, tidy, and empty. All of Ava's and my belongings had been put away, not a single item remained. At first, he guessed that I had just taken Ava on a short trip. But he waited and waited. And still, he couldn't wait any longer. Ethan has always been sparing with his words, but after waiting for a week, he began to feel anxious and took the initiative to message me. "Erica, where did you take Ava? As soon as the message was sent, it showed failure, and at the same time a red exclamation mark appeared. Ethan then realized that he had been blocked. Then Ethan ran to Ava's kindergarten to pick her up after school. The kindergarten teacher looked at him in confusion. "Mr. Ethan, are you mistaken? Aren't you Emma's father?" Ethan was taken aback, and only then did he realize the trouble he was in. Every time I came to the kindergarten before, it was either to pick up Emma or to attend a parent-teacher meeting for her. I never paid any attention to Ava. Now the kindergarten teachers all think that I am Emma's father. Ethan frowned and explained, "No, Emma is my friend's daughter, Ava is my biological daughter." The kindergarten teacher let out a snicker as if she had heard a joke, looking him up and down. It's truly a sight to behold. Every time I come, I attend parent-teacher meetings for someone else's daughter, while it feels like I don't even know my own daughter. If someone didn't know better, they might think we were playing some kind of cosplay. Ava had already transferred schools and, according to her mother, was preparing to settle abroad. She probably left about a week ago. Ethan stood frozen in place, incredulously asking, "What? Move abroad to settle down?" He seemed to have heard some outrageous news. His body shook in disbelief. How could this be possible? For all these years, Erica had been waiting for him in the marriage villa back home. Even though she had been abroad for 3 years, just because of my words, "Don't come," Erica really didn't go abroad even once. She is living in the country with her daughter. Many times, Ethan himself couldn't even imagine how she managed to raise Ava all by herself. After all, the culprit of that night was Erica. Ethan always thought that this wasn't enough, he needed to find other ways to punish her properly. But he didn't know why he felt a regret he had never experienced before. Ethan went crazy, reaching out to connections everywhere, insisting that he must bring me and Ava back. These days, he has locked himself in the house. Ever since returning to the country, Erica has meticulously ironed every suit of hers, and the floors at home are spotless. The laughter of Erica and Ava always echoed in the villa. But now, the villa seemed so empty and silent. Ethan only felt that the loneliness and regret in his heart were growing larger and larger. He now only wants to do one thing, which is to see his wife and daughter immediately. Julie and Emma have come to the villa to look for him several times. "Dad, tomorrow is my birthday. Will you go to Disney with me?" Emma confidently shook his arm, not knowing why she used to find Emma cute and lively. Now he only felt an overwhelming sense of annoyance. He couldn't help but think of Ava. When Emma shamelessly lay in his arms and acted coy, what about Ava? Ava, lacking a father's affection, appeared wronged and tearful, her eyes brimming with unshed tears, constantly surfacing in Ethan's mind. "I'm such a jerk." Ethan pounded his head. At that moment, his guilt reached its peak. "No, I can't just sit back and wait for my fate. I've already hurt Erica and Ava, I need to go and bring them back." Julie cried and blocked his way. "Ethan, since Erica has already decided to leave you, she definitely doesn't want to be found by you again. Please let her go? You have been with me and Emma all these years, she must have given up. How about we start over? After all these years, I realize I still love you, Ethan. Can we create a home for Emma together?" In the past, Julie's cries would only make his heart ache, but this time, Ethan irritably pushed him away. "If you want a home, go find your ex-husband. I have a wife and kids, Julie, let's keep our distance from now on." Ethan personally came to find me, trying every possible way, from live streaming to posting, even reaching out to television reporters. I was told that there were no mother and daughter named Erica and Ava in the country. Ethan held his head in regret for a long time, and as if he thought of something, he suddenly looked up. "I understand now. I know where Erica and Ava are." I never expected to see Ethan again. 2 months later, he actually bought a plane ticket and appeared before Ava and me, looking travel-worn in the country where I had settled. "Erica, Ava, I was wrong." After not seeing each other for a few months, Ethan looked much more haggard and worn. He gazed at me with deep affection, even kneeling to apologize and begging me to turn back. "Erica, I shouldn't have been so self-righteous, thinking I could grasp you, testing you time and again, hurting you time and again. At first, I was just angry with you for being so casual, which made me feel resistant and repelled, but I forgot that I liked you from the very beginning. Erica, I have neglected you and Ava during this time, and now I realize how deep your love for me is. Can you give me another chance? Ethan trembled as he begged me. If it were in the past, I don't know how happy I would have been to see this scene. For a long time, my dream was to marry Ethan and live a simple life with him and his family of 3. I even poured all my feelings into a diary filled with unrequited love. After we got married, those diaries were seen by Ethan, who contemptuously pushed them aside, but I carefully kept them. Before I could cancel my identity and take Ava abroad, all those diaries were burned to ashes. Moreover, when it was burning, there were no more ripples in my heart. I said softly, Ethan, I have already left the divorce agreement, but it doesn't matter. My identity in my home country has been cancelled, so from a legal standpoint, we are no longer husband and wife. You and Julie have unfinished business. Since you like her and her daughter, you can definitely rekindle your past relationship. Although I once liked you, I wasn't that cheap. Without you, my daughter and I can live just fine. Ethan was immediately startled upon hearing this, and he crawled over to me on his knees. No, this is all a misunderstanding. He said that he and Julie are not in that kind of relationship. There is nothing inappropriate between them. I couldn't bear to see Julie taking care of the child all by herself, so I helped her look after her daughter. Perhaps once I had feelings for her too. However, now I have seen her true colors. Those reporters were all deliberately brought in by her. She wants to marry me now, but it's only for money. Erica, I have seen my heart clearly. I want you. He pleaded desperately. But I coldly pushed him away. Crouching down, I asked my daughter, Ava, will you forgive Daddy? Ava calmly stared at him and shook her head. No, Ava no longer had a father. Her classmates were right, Ava was just a bastard. It doesn't matter whether she's a wild seed or not, having a mother is enough for Ava. Something in Ethan's eyes seemed to have completely shattered. I smiled and replied, Ethan, you can go. I was wearing a crisp, sharp suit and glanced down at my watch on my wrist. Soon I had to attend a social event, a multi-million-dollar deal at stake. In the few months since I arrived abroad, I have closed several deals and earned over 10 million. Ethan, however, was busy searching for his wife and children. As the company fell into decline, he ruthlessly severed ties with Julie. As a result, Julie took revenge on him by exposing Ethan's scandal of cheating on his wife while abroad. In a single night, Ethan's company's stock price plummeted to a level that even the greatest deities couldn't bring back. I was just there to enjoy the excitement. Then I threw myself back into my work. Ethan comes every month, persistently asking for our forgiveness. But both Ava and I were fed up and refused to see it. Finally, it was my dad, who was fishing, that stopped him. Ethan, you little brat, don't chase after her anymore. I gave you the chance on a silver platter before, and you didn't cherish it. Now that you regret it and want to chase her again, it's too late. Ethan later found out that the reason I was determined to go abroad was because of the video that Julie had deliberately sent me. He explained to me with a pale face. Erica, don't believe it. It was a misunderstanding, we were playing truth or dare, that wasn't real. He said he was only taking care of Julie and her daughter abroad, and that there was really nothing to it. But I no longer want to investigate what is true or false. After all, it has nothing to do with me anymore. Later, I met a very compatible partner in the business world. We have been dating recently, but I rejected his marriage proposal. I said I have no intention of entering marriage again. I asked Ava if she would like to have a new dad. Ava mischievously glanced back at me, clapped her hands, and said with a laugh, if it's an uncle, I would like him to be my new dad. And this scene was witnessed by Ethan, whose face turned pale as he left with a bitter smile. After he left, the nanny handed me a letter. She said it was from Ethan. My dad curiously asked, what does it say up there? I didn't look at it, I just tore it to shreds and threw it in the trash can. It no longer matters. 2 years later, I heard that Ethan could no longer get by in the country. He had an unexpected car accident, and some said he had become a vegetable. Some say he stabbed Julie and ended up in prison. What the truth really is, I didn't pursue it either. Because it no longer matters either. In my past life, my best friend and I both married into the Alex family, a renowned medical family. She married Oliver, the eldest son of the Alex family. I married Lucas, the youngest son of the Alex family. However, my best friend gave birth to 3 children in succession for Oliver, the eldest son of the Alex family, and all 3 were medical prodigies. As for me, I only gave birth to a daughter for Lucas, the youngest son of the Alex family, and this daughter was even a fool who couldn't even count the simplest one. Lucas, who was extremely concerned about his reputation, felt extremely humiliated. Many years later, at a medical seminar, I took my daughter to attend, and just because she stammered and called out, "Daddy," it made everyone burst into laughter. Humiliated, Lucas stabbed my daughter to death in anger and then bludgeoned me to death with a club. When I opened my eyes again, both Lucas and I were reincarnated. This time, at the scene of the family alliance through marriage, Lucas was the first to take my best friend's hand and said, "I like you. Can you marry me?" The Alex family, a medical family, held a banquet and invited famous figures in the medical field and upper-class families in City A to attend. This was a public marriage alliance gathering. My family had been practicing medicine for 3 generations, but recently our private hospital had encountered some problems. I attended the banquet hoping to seek help from the Alex family. Thinking of the misfortunes of the marriage alliance in my past life, my eyes were full of bitterness. The 2 sons of the Alex family were standing in front, surrounded by the crowd, looking high-spirited. 2 young ladies of high society beside them couldn't help whispering, "Lucas, the youngest son, has such a good temperament. He looks like a real sweetheart. Oliver, the eldest son, is also very handsome. He's just a bit aloof." A bit aloof? You don't know how cold Oliver can be. I heard that he's extremely skilled in medicine, but he won't treat those he doesn't like. Lucas is different. He's very easygoing. Whoever comes to him for help, he'll treat the patients well. I think a gentleman like him is the perfect choice for a husband. But I heard that Lucas is an illegitimate child. Who cares about that now? He's been recognized by the family, hasn't he? My best friend Sophie beside me, after hearing this, excitedly grabbed my hand, her eyes fixed on Lucas in the crowd. When she accidentally made eye contact with him, she blushed and quickly looked away. I, however, let out a sarcastic sneer. In my past life, I was also deceived by Lucas's appearance. My grandfather, father, and brother all studied medicine, and I also embarked on the path of studying medicine. Due to my excellent talent, I even became a somewhat famous golden hand doctor in City A. Because of my well-known talent and beautiful face, I was chosen by Lucas to be his marriage alliance partner. It was also at that time that I learned that my best friend Sophie liked Lucas. However, she got drunk that night and accidentally slept with Oliver. 1 month later, she was pregnant and reluctantly married Oliver. After getting married, Lucas and I had a wonderful time together. He was indeed, as everyone said, a sweetheart who knew how to take care of people. At that time, I was delighted to have met a good husband, but I never expected that it would be the root of my misery in the latter half of my life. Not long after my best friend married Oliver, she gave birth to 3 healthy sons in succession. My father-in-law was beaming with joy and praised my best friend as a good daughter-in-law, and even gave her 900 million yuan. As for me, I couldn't get pregnant all the time. Gradually, Lucas changed. He began to be impatient with me, irritable and short-tempered, and was extremely concerned about others saying that he had no children. He said there was something wrong with my body, made me drink countless doses of Chinese herbal medicine, and gave me countless acupuncture treatments. In order to make me prepare for pregnancy properly, he forced me to quit my job at the hospital and stay at home. But I was a doctor myself. If I couldn't get pregnant for a long time, didn't I know how to examine my own body? It was clearly him who had problems with his body. For a whole decade, I took countless medical folk remedies, which damaged my health, but still couldn't get pregnant. I couldn't bear it anymore and wanted to divorce Lucas so that he could have children with someone else. He, however, sneered, "How much effort have I spent on you? Do you think you can just casually say you want a divorce? When I chose you as the marriage alliance partner, it was for your medical talent. Otherwise, do you think I would have fallen for you? Unexpectedly, you're useless. What's the use of having great talent if you can't give birth to children? You're a waste." I had a huge fight with him and fainted. When I woke up, I found him sitting by my bedside with a smile, saying that I was pregnant. He seemed to have returned to normal, asking about my well-being. After 10 months of pregnancy, I gave birth to a daughter. But the good times didn't last long. The 3 children born by my best friend officially started learning medicine and were praised by their teachers and family members as medical prodigies. My father-in-law directly announced his retirement and let Oliver take over most of the company's industries in the Alex family. And my daughter couldn't even be taught to do the arithmetic of 1 and was a slow-witted fool. Lucas broke down, cursing me as a waste who couldn't give birth to sons, and drove me out of the Alex family with nothing. I didn't feel aggrieved. Instead, I was relieved and lived alone with my daughter. But at a medical seminar, when my daughter stammered and called him Daddy, everyone laughed and teased him. Lucas immediately blushed with shame, feeling that he had lost face. That day, he barged into the house and directly stabbed my daughter to death. It's this idiot who makes me lose face. D. I pushed him with all my strength, trying to take my daughter to the hospital for rescue. Who knew that Lucas had gone completely crazy, and with a hideous face, he attacked me from behind. Before I died, I tightly hugged the small body in my arms. My blood grew cold and I gradually lost consciousness. I never expected that I would be reincarnated and even go back to the day of the banquet. The overwhelming hatred made my fingertips tremble. I coldly looked at Lucas, only to find that he was walking straight towards my best friend. I shuddered all over and suddenly realized he had also been reincarnated. Chapter 2. My 2 sons are usually so focused on medical research that they're almost 30 and still unmarried. I can't even hold my grandchildren. Alex feigned distress. Everyone naturally understood that today was a family marriage alliance banquet and that Alex was looking for marriage alliance candidates. Oliver, the eldest son, was born to Alex's ex-wife. With extremely high talent, he was a renowned medical genius in the medical field. Lucas, the youngest son, was born to Alex's current wife. It was said that he was an illegitimate child born out of wedlock. But he had an excellent reputation and was widely regarded as a nice guy. In my past life, Lucas had already investigated all the young ladies of high society who came to attend the banquet. His talent in medicine was no match for Oliver's. Spoiled since childhood, he didn't practice medicine diligently. Wanting to have a smart child to make up for his deficiency in medical skills, he had long been thinking of choosing me as his marriage alliance partner. But in this life, without even glancing at me, he walked straight up to my best friend. In the astonished eyes of everyone, he took her hand and said, "I like you. Can you marry me?" The people present were stunned for a moment and asked in a low voice who my best friend was. Although Amelia's family had some assets, they were actually not on the invitation list. She liked Lucas and begged me to bring her in. At that time, I didn't think much about it. Since marriage alliances were usually between families of equal status, I thought she could at most just join in the fun. Alex frowned and asked Lucas, "Are you sure?" Lucas nodded with a smile. "Actually, I've fallen in love with Miss Amelia long ago. I'm taking this opportunity today to confess my love and propose to her." As he spoke, he looked at my best friend affectionately. My best friend was overjoyed and without any hesitation, quickly replied, "I'm willing to marry you." At this moment, Lucas seemed to casually glance at me. The disdain, disgust, and loathing in his eyes almost overwhelmed me. I felt a chill all over my body, remembering the fear and hatred before I died in my past life. My best friend was overjoyed and without any hesitation, quickly replied, "I'm willing to marry you." Just as I was almost unable to control myself and was about to rush forward to slap him hard and break all pretense, a warm big hand took my cold wrist. I subconsciously looked up and met a pair of deep, ink-black eyes. The man in front of me was wearing a tailored suit. With a cold and aloof temperament, the corners of his mouth were slightly curved with a faint smile. "Shall we get married?" Everyone looked at each other in surprise and whispered, wondering if the 2 sons of the Alex family were secretly in love. Everyone knew about the problems in my family's hospital. Whoever got married to me would have to solve the issues in my family first. Before getting any benefits, they would have to fill the holes in my family first. When I was chosen as the marriage alliance partner of the Alex family, no one considered me a competitor. Alex frowned but didn't say anything in the end. After all, it was his sons getting married, not him. But Lucas, who was standing aside, darkened his face. "Brother, it's better to check the physical condition of your marriage partner before getting married. Don't end up with someone who can't have children later and regret wasting your time." A surge of anger rose in my chest and was about to burst out when Oliver smoothly took my hand. His tone was calm. "Whom I marry doesn't need your concern. Little brother, you'd better worry about your own partner. Besides, I'm marrying this person because I like her, not because of her ability to bear children. Lucas's face stiffened. It seemed that he was being mocked for getting married just to find someone who could have children. Lucas's mother smiled and tried to save her son's face by saying, Oliver, your brother is also concerned about you. But since you've both chosen the people you like and they're willing, then just pick a date and finalize the wedding. Alex remained silent, also tacitly approving the choices of his two sons. Everyone sighed and made excuses to leave one after another. Lucas was gently caring for my best friend, but before leaving, he snorted coldly at me. Brother, this woman may be a bit pretty, but there are plenty of good-looking women out there. Don't be impulsive and ruin the rest of your life. Before long, you'll find that she's all show and no substance. You'll regret it. Chapter 3. When I got home, my parents already knew the news. Their hearts, which had been tensed for months because of the hospital issues, finally relaxed. They actively prepared for the wedding with the Alex family while discussing how to exchange benefits. The day before Lucas got married, my best friend came to see me. She was beaming with happiness, but looked very unnatural when she saw me. Diana, I was so stunned when Lucas confessed to me that day that I didn't speak up for you in time. I really like Lucas. He said he'll give me the best. She paused for a moment and then softly advised me, I heard that his brother is really cold-hearted. Oliver choosing to marry you probably means he wants to annex your family's hospital. I think you should think it carefully. Looking at Amelia's self-righteous face as she pretended to be concerned about me, I sneered inwardly. Before getting married, Amelia was indeed my good friend, but after getting married, she became the sister-in-law who laughed at my misfortunes. In my past life, she also said that Lucas didn't like me and advised me to marry someone I liked. When I was being tortured miserably by Lucas, she said with a smile, See, I told you so, but you didn't listen. But since you can't have children, just let the little brother find someone else to have children. Then you can raise them and won't have to suffer. Amelia, I hope that after experiencing everything I did in my past life, you can still think like this. Amelia was wholeheartedly looking forward to a grand wedding of a wealthy and aristocratic family to show off. But to her surprise, Lucas didn't plan a big wedding. It could even be described as shabby. He just booked a few tables at a hotel for close relatives and friends, placed a few vases of flowers, and hired an MC. That was it for the wedding. Amelia was so angry that she cried with a sense of grievance. Lucas, however, gently comforted her, saying that Alex didn't like extravagance and that he would give her a grand banquet as compensation after she had children. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard that. Amelia's family wasn't even considered upper class in City A. Lucas chose her as his marriage partner after being reborn. Wasn't it precisely because he had his eye on the fact that she gave birth to 3 medical geniuses in her previous life? However, he was so concerned about his reputation that, feeling he had married a wife from a different social class, he naturally refused to hold a grand wedding. Was the Alex family short of the money for a wedding? Only Amelia believed his nonsense. I had experienced his sweet words in my previous life. At that time, I naively thought that he really married me and treated me well because he liked me. But I never expected that after just 3 years without getting pregnant, he completely changed. On the day of my wedding, Oliver held a wedding in the Alex family villa and invited numerous upper-class families in City A to attend. Oliver was dressed in a white tuxedo, and his indifferent face showed a look of joy. He put his arm around my waist, lifted my veil in the cheers of everyone, and tilted his head to kiss my lips. Darling, happy wedding. I blushed, and my heart was beating faster and faster. Didn't everyone say that Oliver was aloof and unapproachable? Why did the man in front of me seem not to be what others described? I remembered in my previous life that he hardly ever appeared with Amelia, and his face was always cold at family banquets. He spent all day researching medicine, either in the hospital or in his own private apartment. And Amelia, besides taunting me, always said that Oliver was like a working robot. After the wedding, Oliver took me to live in an apartment outside. I was surprised and asked, "Don't we need to live with my in-laws in the old house?" In my previous life, Lucas had always lived with his in-laws, saying that he wanted to be filial to them and couldn't let the old people feel lonely. Oliver tugged at his tie and said, "No. How can we have a life of our own if we live with them?" I blushed and didn't know how to respond. Oliver, however, picked me up and walked into the bedroom. When I woke up again, I was told by the maid that he had gone on a business trip to treat a patient. I looked at the message he sent on my phone and felt a bit disappointed. It seemed that he was really a workaholic. In Chapter 4, everyone in the circle said that Amelia was Lucas's true love and they were a model couple. Lucas was extremely concerned about Amelia's health and spent money like water on buying tonics for her. He even quarreled with his own mother to defend Amelia. He was almost obedient to her in every way and was called a model husband by the media. And the news about me somehow reached the hospital where I worked. Her husband went on a business trip the day after the wedding. She's really just a pawn in an arranged marriage. Maybe Oliver has someone he likes outside. Possibly. What's the use of a grand wedding on the surface? These aristocratic arranged marriages are actually each going their own way. My colleagues in the hospital were gossiping about me behind my back. I don't know who I had offended, but the media even went to great lengths to publicize that Oliver from the medical family was forced to marry a wife he didn't like and that he hid outside and didn't want to go home after getting married. And these rumors against me finally exploded completely at a family banquet. After not seeing her for a year, Sophie didn't seem as good as others had described. She had gained weight, her eyes were full of exhaustion, and there were a few acne marks on her face. When she saw me, shock and jealousy flashed in her eyes. Amelia, I didn't expect that with Big Brother not around, you're actually doing quite well. I curled my lips and said, he's on a business trip outside, eating and drinking well. Naturally, I'm doing well too. Sophie pursed her lips and then put her arm around Lucas's arm, speaking with a somewhat proud tone. Lucas is so good to me. He wouldn't bear to be on a business trip for so long. He even advised me not to work so hard and just stay at home and enjoy myself. Seeing that I didn't seem to have much of a reaction, Sophie added, Amelia, why don't you also resign? Working in the hospital is so tiring. Don't tell me Big Brother hasn't given you any money to spend? I laughed and said, do I need to rely on a man to support me? Haven't you always known that my family is rich? Besides, how do you know that my husband hasn't given me any money? Sophie was at a loss for words. Before she could say anything else, Lucas interrupted. It seems you like my absent big brother a lot. I said in an indifferent tone, I naturally like my husband. As soon as the words were out, Lucas's face instantly darkened, and he snorted coldly. Sophie was stunned but remained still, her eyes darting between me and Lucas as she tried to pull Lucas away. Who would have thought that Lucas, who had always been obedient to his wife, would suddenly shake off her hand vigorously, causing her to lose her balance and fall? Lucas's face was gloomy as he said coldly, Diana, after marrying my big brother, you start to look down on others. Do you really think your arranged marriage is so stable? Big Brother can solve the problems of your family, and I can also make your family have problems again. I gave a wry smile and didn't want to get entangled with him any longer, so I turned and left. Who would have thought that Lucas had gone crazy and actually grabbed my hand? I won't allow you to like anyone else. As I was struggling, a cold shout came from the doorway, let her go. Chapter 5, If you lay a finger on your sister-in-law again, move out of the old house on your own initiative. Oliver's tone was icy. Lucas involuntarily let go of my hand. Among the people of the Alex family, apart from the majestic Alex, the one they were most afraid of was Oliver. He had an extremely high medical talent and was very hardworking, and had long been known as a miracle doctor. Every day, countless people tried to find connections to ask him to treat their illnesses, which had expanded a lot of connections for the Alex family. So, no one dared to provoke him, and Lucas, who was not proficient in medicine, naturally didn't dare either. Only after marrying Oliver did I understand why Lucas had such a good reputation in the eyes of others. It was because Lucas lived in the old house. In the eyes of others, he and his genius big brother got along well. If they couldn't get help from Oliver, they would turn to Lucas. Lucas took advantage of his mother's and Alex's doting on the younger son to ask Oliver, his big brother, to treat many intractable diseases of wealthy and famous people. Thus, the reputation that Oliver was unapproachable and Lucas was gentle with people spread. Oliver held my wrist, looked at it, and said coldly, Lucas, you're almost 30. Don't be like a weaned baby, always clinging to dad. Hone your medical skills well and don't disgrace the Alex family. Lucas's face changed. This meant that he was asked to move out of the old house and not to take advantage of Oliver's reputation to accept patients anymore. Then he would have no extra income and no connections either. I'll live in the old house as long as Dad agrees. Big Brother, Just mind your own business and see more patients instead. So that people won't say you look down on others because of your medical skills. I smiled and said, little brother, the number of papers you've published and the times you've made outpatient visits are not even 1/3 of my husband's. What right do you have to question my husband? If you have the guts, don't accept patients yourself and let my husband treat them instead. Lucas's face turned livid, and he gritted his teeth and said, do you have a say in this? How do you talk to your sister-in-law? Are you ignoring my warning just now? Oliver said unhappily. I'll talk to Dad tonight. You should be independent too. After saying that, he pulled me upstairs. He personally washed my wrist and applied medicine to it. He stared for a long while and then said in a muffled voice, the patients I treated during my 1-year business trip were all found by my little brother. Their conditions were very rare, so I couldn't help but go. Don't worry. I'll never be on a business trip for such a long time again, and I won't let the family members bully you either. I couldn't help but laugh. The person who seemed aloof in the eyes of others was actually a bit of a closeted flirt. Okay, I'll see how you perform next. Oliver curled the corners of his mouth and hugged me tightly, kissing me passionately. Later, Alex really asked Lucas to move out. No one knew who had leaked out what had happened at the banquet that day. Everyone in the circle knew that the relationship between the two brothers in the Alex family wasn't that close, and that Lucas had secretly used Oliver's reputation to collect money from patients for himself. Lucas lost most of his connections. Chapter 6 Absence makes the heart grow fonder. After being affectionate with Oliver for half a month, we both got back to our working states. Suddenly, Sophie came to my door crying. Amelia, do you like Lucas? But you're already married. Why did you ruin his reputation just because he didn't choose you for an arranged marriage? How could you be so unreasonable? I looked at her strangely and said, why have you become such a lovesick fool? Has that scumbag Lucas brainwashed you? In my previous life, Sophie was just busy taking care of the children. I didn't see her being so desperate for the aloof Oliver. I think you're just jealous that Lucas truly likes me. Amelia, stop making petty moves. Sophie said with pity, I know you can't have children, so you're unbalanced. I sneered, then you're quite something. You can have children. I don't care who Lucas likes. I love Oliver. Don't involve me. Since you think your husband is perfect, then just live your life well. I looked at her plump figure and said meaningfully, don't take random medicines if there's nothing wrong with your body. Be careful not to mess up your health. Sophie's face changed several times. Seeing that she couldn't out-argue me, she stomped her foot and turned to leave. A pair of big hands wrapped around my waist from behind, and warm breath sprayed on my ear. So, the person my wife loves is me, Oliver said with a smile, pressing his whole body against my back. I struggled a bit. Seeing that he didn't move, I felt my head getting hot. You're so heavy. Get off me quickly. Oliver hugged my waist and sat up, holding me in his arms. My little brother has been spoiled by Dad and his mom. I gave him a little lesson a few days ago. He paused and continued, is there something wrong with your body? You look fine to me. Why did Sophie say you can't have children? My heart tightened. If I can't have children, then you don't have to endure the pain of giving birth. Oliver interrupted me. I've taken your pulse and didn't find any problems with your body. But whether you can have children or not, if you're sick, you should see a doctor. I understood what he meant. He was simply concerned about my body. My heart ached, and I couldn't help but bury my head in his arms. After that day, seeing that I was interested in medicine, Oliver took me to read many medical books together. He also discussed a lot of Western medicine surgical techniques with me. The two of us focused our energy on medicine and work. My reputation as a master of medicine grew bigger and bigger, and people came to me every month because of my fame. I don't know if it was on purpose that Lucas found rare patients for Oliver for a whole year, but Oliver's medical skills broke through earlier than in his previous life. His medical skills and knowledge became even more excellent, and he was actually on a par with veteran doctors who had been in practice for decades. Alex praised Oliver both implicitly and explicitly and wanted to hand over the company's business to him. Lucas got worried and made Sophie drink countless folk remedies, hoping to give birth to a medical genius son as soon as possible. My best friend was tortured miserably, but she insisted that Lucas loved her and that she must give birth to a son for him. Chapter 7 5 years had passed. Both Oliver and I had improved our medical skills, and our relationship had been as sweet as honey. We would argue heatedly over medical differences, but he would surprise me from time to time in private. He said, "At work, we are both rivals and friends, but in life, I'm just your lover." He gave me enough respect and freedom in work and also made me a happy wife in the eyes of others. Perhaps, my previous life was too painful, so God gave me a chance to start over. I decided to discuss with him about having a child. Oliver actively cooperated with the examinations and body conditioning. In my previous life, when I didn't get pregnant for a long time, Lucas and his mother put pressure on me. He thought that since he was from a medical family, there couldn't be any problems with his body. If I couldn't give birth, it must be because of my body. I insisted on going for examinations with him. The examination results showed that there was indeed a problem with my body, while his was normal. He accompanied me to several hospitals, and the results were the same. I was physically and mentally exhausted and felt guilty towards him, so I obediently followed his advice to condition my body. I had acupuncture and took medicine for 10 years. But when I was kicked out of the house by Lucas with nothing but my daughter, I accidentally discovered his real examination results. It turned out that it was he who had a big problem. There was a defect in his genes, and his sperm could hardly survive. Even if I got pregnant by chance, the child born would not be healthy. I had been deceived by him for 10 years like this. Obviously, my body had been conditioned long ago. Just wait and see. Do you think that just because Sophie has a good pregnancy constitution, she can give birth to a healthy child? I sneered. Don't be disappointed in the end. When Oliver and I were preparing for pregnancy, Sophie's body became more and more out of shape. When she saw the diagnosis sheet in my hand, a happy smile appeared on her tired face. "I knew you still cared about whether you could give birth. You must have had a lot of acupuncture and taken a lot of medicine over the years, right? I suggest that if you can't give birth, let your brother have a child with someone else. Then you won't suffer and can still happily hold a baby." I looked her up and down. When she first got married, Lucas was extremely good to her, and she was dressed in luxury from head to toe. Now she was wearing cheap clothes, and her bag was from a few years ago. Seemingly to notice my gaze, Sophie stammered, "What are you looking at?" My Lucas said that wearing cheap clothes is good for the body, not too irritating. I smiled and said, "As long as you like it. Sophie, if you can't give birth, you can also be magnanimous and get a divorce so that your little brother can have a child with someone else." After saying that, I turned and left. Sophie behind me was so angry that she jumped up and down. But not long after that, Sophie really got pregnant. Chapter 8. Lucas was overjoyed and took Sophie out shopping again. He even boasted that he would give Sophie a villa as long as she gave birth to a son. Alex and Lucas's mother also showed their kindness. They transferred a sum of money to Sophie and told everyone they were going to have a grandson. Sophie's gloominess of the past 5 years was swept away, and she was in high spirits. She deliberately waited for me to get off work to tell me this news. "Amelia, our Alex family doesn't lack the little money you earn from working. I advise you to quit your job and have a son for my brother. Otherwise, just as Lucas said, maybe one day my brother will divorce you." Sophie, with her still not showing pregnancy belly, was walking on air. I smiled and said, "If you give birth to a child that doesn't meet Lucas's expectations, he will really divorce you." Over the past few years, Sophie had seen what Lucas was really like. She panicked and said harshly, "You're just jealous of me. Even if I give birth to a daughter this time, I'll surely give birth to a son next time. Unlike you, who don't even have any hope of having your own child." "How do you know I don't?" "You believe everything Lucas says. Don't be cheated by others and still count the money for them." I sneered. Perhaps once people's own interests are involved, there will be estrangement. Even if Sophie and I used to be on good terms, with the conflicts of interests in our respective married lives, we couldn't be as good as before. Lucas rushed over hurriedly and gently cared about Sophie's body. He seemed to have become the obedient lover to his wife as he was during their newlywed days. Sophie buried herself in his arms aggrievedly and cried, saying that I was jealous of her. Lucas glared at me angrily. "Diana, even if you're dissatisfied with me, don't you dare to hurt Sophie." Over the past few years, he had noticed my changes and seemed to be certain that I was also reborn. I remained calm on the surface. "I don't care what happens to you. Please don't come to bother me again." Oliver came to pick me up from work and walked over from a distance. Seeing the tense atmosphere, he was the first to hug me and looked coldly at Sophie. "Don't always come to annoy your sister-in-law." Sophie shrank her neck and didn't dare to speak. Lucas's face darkened. Brother, are you going to protect Diana without even asking the reason? She's my wife. Who else should I protect if not her? Even if your sister-in-law is wrong, if you come to bother her again, you two can forget about working in City A. Oliver looked as if it was only natural. Now that Alex had almost delegated all his power to Oliver, he indeed had the right to transfer Lucas from the hospital in City A to another city. Lucas swallowed his anger and left. Chapter 9. It was calm for more than half a year. Sophie's belly grew bigger and bigger. And the baby of my this life also arrived quietly. This time, he came into the world with the love of his parents, not as a tool for contending for power and profit. After knowing about it, Sophie called to congratulate me. Amelia, you said you didn't care, but actually you've been working hard too. You've been through a lot these years, but Lucas told me that you might not be able to really get your body conditioned well. Even if you get pregnant and give birth, the child will probably be abnormal. On the phone, her voice was full of sympathy. Lucas seemed to be beside her too, and said sarcastically, no matter what the sister-in-law gives birth to, my brother will love it very much. I think it's Lucas who is mentally abnormal. Since he's reborn, doesn't he know whose fault it is that an unhealthy child is born? Soon, it was the day of Sophie's delivery. Lucas had arranged his own ward early and asked the best obstetrician in the hospital to deliver Sophie's baby. Alex made a special trip to the hospital, followed by a large number of relatives from the Alex family. Everyone was looking forward to Alex's grandchild. Alex was beaming from ear to ear and slapped Lucas on the shoulder vigorously. Well done. Finally, I can hold my grandson. Lucas was overjoyed. When he turned his head and saw me, he sneered. I ignored him. Finally, the nurse came out holding a swaddled baby. Congratulations. It's a boy. Alex laughed heartily and said he would hold a grand 100-day banquet for his grandson. Lucas was ecstatic. His hands were trembling as he wanted to take the baby. But he tried his best to restrain his joy and asked, is the child healthy? Have all the examinations been done? The obstetrician came out and asked the nurse to take the child for an examination. Lucas's face froze when he heard that, and his expression looked a bit unnatural. Alex, however, urged them to finish the examination quickly so that he could hold his grandson. Unexpectedly, after the examination, the doctor delivered a bolt from the blue. The child has slow reactions and abnormal cerebellar development. It meant that the child might be mentally retarded. The joy came to an abrupt end. Alex's smile froze on his face and slowly disappeared. Lucas was stunned and muttered to himself. Why? I clearly chose a different person. No way. He roared, his face contorted. How could it be abnormal? Was it because Sophie didn't adjust her body well, or she didn't protect the child, so the child was born like this? Unfortunately, the doctor shattered his illusion. There is a defect in the child's genes. You're lying. It's because Sophie didn't protect the child. Lucas yelled hysterically. How could such a mentally retarded person be my child? Throw him out and send him to the orphanage. Sophie, dragging her weak postpartum body, ran out. Lucas, you're crazy. He's your son. She stood in front of her son, spreading her arms to prevent Lucas from taking him away. I took so many medicines and had so many injections to give birth to him. It was you who always desired to have a son. But now that he's been born, you look down on him for being slow in reactions and are going to abandon him. Lucas, you brute. Sophie was in tears, with her eyes full of hatred. I lowered my eyes, my heart full of mixed feelings. In my previous life, I gave birth to a daughter. Lucas didn't even look at her. So, I didn't notice that my daughter was abnormal. It was when my daughter was 1 year old that I found out, and he also yelled to send my daughter away, saying that he couldn't afford to lose face. Finally, Alex stopped his youngest son's absurd behavior. Chapter 10. Lucas was decadent for several months. He didn't dare to show up at family banquets. He also didn't go to see his son, claiming that he didn't have such a mentally retarded son. When Sophie was out of confinement and still breastfeeding the child, he was already thinking about getting Sophie pregnant again. He forced Sophie to take injections and medicines again, saying that if she gave birth this time, she would surely give birth to a healthy son next time. Alex scolded him several times, but he still went his own way. Sophie seemed to be willing to cooperate with him. Soon, I gave birth to a healthy daughter. The moment the doctor said she was healthy, I burst into tears instantly. Oliver wiped my tears away lovingly and held the child to comfort me. Diana, you've worked hard. I'll be a good father. He was learning how to hold the baby with great care, bringing his work from the company to the hospital ward. In recent years, he had been focusing on the company. Sometimes he would also see patients with difficult-to-treat diseases. Now he was concentrating on taking care of my body. Giving birth takes a great toll on the mother's body. Having a daughter is enough for us. He said this to me in a consultative tone. I felt a warmth in my heart. I heard that when he was waiting outside the delivery room, his whole body went weak and he could hardly walk. Thinking about it, he must have been devoting his energy to our daughter these years. I smiled and replied, okay. Oliver, why are you so nice to me? I feel that our marriage doesn't seem like an arranged one, but more like a marriage out of free love. Oliver's ears turned red and he coughed uncomfortably. I had been noticing you for a long time. Medicine is a unified field. I think you are really good at Western medicine. I secretly chuckled to myself. So he had a crush on me. Oliver and I became doting parents to our daughter, immersing ourselves in the life of raising a child. Unexpectedly, news about Sophie came. Less than 5 months after Sophie's confinement period ended, she got pregnant again. Despite all the precautions, she still had a miscarriage accidentally. Lucas cursed at her for being useless and told her to quickly take care of her body and make sure to give birth to a medical genius son, not caring about her physical condition at all. To make her focus on preparing for pregnancy without distractions, he secretly sent their mentally disabled son to an orphanage. Sophie was furious. She had a huge fight with him in the hospital, yelling at him in front of the medical staff and the families of patients that he was the one with problems. Lucas, it's clearly you who are no good. You can't give birth to a healthy son, but you put all the blame on me. You coward. You faked the medical records to deceive me into thinking that I was the one with problems while you were normal. It's clearly that there are defects in your genes, making it difficult for women to get pregnant by you. Even if they do get pregnant and give birth, the child will be mentally disabled. I've had enough of you, you lunatic. Divorce. The news spread like wildfire and became a hot topic on the internet. Alex cursed angrily and hurriedly tried to clean up his son's mess. Then he made the decision for Sophie, gave her compensation, and let her leave with her son after the divorce. Lucas was disgraced. When he wanted to arrange another marriage, no one paid any attention to him. He found a girlfriend on his own and got married, but almost killed her and was sued in court. Alex was physically and mentally exhausted. Lucas's mother seemed to have aged 10 years instantly. Usually, she took great care of herself and always had the air of a noble lady. She was clearly a dozen years younger than Alex, but now she looked even older than him. In the end, Lucas didn't go to prison. He was judged to be a mental patient and was sent to a mental hospital. He kept mumbling, I'm reborn. I must be able to give birth to a genius son. Walking out of the court, Sophie was standing outside with her son in her arms. Her eyes were complex, but she walked up to me and said softly, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have competed with you. I smiled and walked past her. The friendship between you and me had already disappeared completely in our previous life. In this life, how could I care about what happens to you? To me, you are already a stranger. Many years later, our daughter grew up slowly. Both her teachers and our relatives praised her as a medical genius. As a mother, I knew very well that our daughter was indeed smart, but without the patient guidance of her parents, she wouldn't have learned so quickly. As the only granddaughter of the Alex family, she was also adored and grew up in the spotlight.